Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post this video up to Facebook when I think about it. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. They have helped a lot of people, and I've gotten great feedback from them. So thank you, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, so today we're going to go over the Miranda rights. We're going to go over the Fifth Amendment, and we're going to go over, do triggers ever really go away? So let's talk about Miranda warnings, Miranda rights first. So when we are dealing with, oh, hello, Spain. When we are dealing with an abuser and there is domestic violence going on and things get heated, oftentimes the abuser will be the one to call the police. And then, of course, they get to the police person first and give their sob story. And if you've got a narcissist for a police officer, they're going to come after the target of abuse and immediately assume that the target of abuse is the problem, because that's what narcissistic police officers do. So, and I've been doing this for God knows how many years, since 2006. Yeah, 2006. So over the years, what I've seen is if the police officer has got any sort of issues whatsoever, they will side with the abuser and they will intimidate the target of abuse. So you need to know your rights in case the abuser calls the police, calls CPS, DCS, so Children's Protective Services or Department of Children's Services. It's named differently in every single state. So here's what you need to know. So here's the Miranda warning. So you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to answer any questions at all, period. That is your right. So if a police officer comes up to you, all you have to do is say, I am being abused. I am in danger. And other than that, I am not saying another word. That's all you got to say. Seriously, that is all you got to say. So you have the right to remain silent. So now, please know that if you give up the right to remain silent, anything you say can and abso-freaking-lutely will be used against you. Absolutely. You cannot trust the police officers. You cannot. So here's the deal. What happens to us as targets of abuse is when we are confronted with an authoritarian, okay? And if we've been abused in our family of origin, mom, dad, grandparents, whatever, and or we are in an abusive relationship romantically, and an authoritarian comes in and starts, acting like an abuser, our inner child is going to sabotage us like nobody's business, okay? No. You cannot allow your inner child to be running the show ever, but especially if you're dealing with the police. So what happens with us is we have a tendency to have an authoritarian come at us and we go, blah, 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 let me explain. I want you to see my side of it. I want you to understand me. That's what we do, because how old are you at that moment? Probably pretty young. So the problem of it is if this was a perfect world, first of all, there wouldn't be no narcissists. I would be retired, but it's not. So if it was a perfect world, you could tell your story and be comfortable in that. It's not. There's a reason why we have safeguards in place for basic rights, because abusers will take advantage otherwise. So your Miranda right. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to not say anything. Anything you do say can and abso-freaking-lutely will be used against you. So that inner child is going to want to, no, no, I'm being abused. I'm in danger. That's all I'm going to say. Period. Okay. So the next part of the Miranda is you have the right to counsel. You have the right to an attorney before you speak to the police. You have the right to have an attorney present during questioning now or in the future. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you by the court. So here's the deal. You don't ever have to go without an attorney if you're being questioned. Unfortunately, right now that's being challenged. Don't get me started, but so you have the right to have an attorney, and it's a really good idea because attorneys understand how the system works. And attorneys are not dealing with their inner child. Attorneys are used to dealing with this kind of stuff. So you want to speak to, yes, you have the right to speak to an attorney before the police. Absolutely. Absolutely. As soon as they start talking to you, I want an attorney. There will be no answering until I have an attorney. Boom. Done. They can do nothing. That's why I'm saying you tell them, I am being abused. I am in danger. That is all I'm going to say. Other than that, I want an attorney present. Period. Now, they'll do things like, well, that sounds awfully, like you're guilty. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Cops are manipulative because they're trying to catch you. So they'll do the good cop, bad cop thing. Oh, honey, I understand. Da, da, da. No, not another word until my attorney is here. Boom. Done. Do you see where I'm going with that? So, and you want to do that because cops will get you to just keep going. So if there's been a shoving match and they hit you and you push them away to protect yourself, if you say that, the cop is going to assume you're the aggressor. Why? Because a lot of them are narcissists and they're going to side with the abuser. So yes, you absolutely do not have to answer a goddamn question. You don't. People give their rights away. They don't understand the power they actually have. And that's why rights are getting trampled, because people don't understand they have the right to remain silent. They have the right to tell the cop, I'm not saying another mother frickin' word to you. Let me get my attorney here, or let me get an attorney here. I am not saying another word. Period. Okay? So you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one can be and will be appointed to you by the court of law. Now, here's the problem with that. When I worked in the homeless shelter, the attorneys, the public defenders were not that great. And honestly, I don't think they did a really good job for the people that were having to use the public defenders. We often called them public pretenders. So, but it depends on the attorney. Sometimes you'll get a really good one that's just, hey, nope, they're my client. I'm representing them. I'm going to do the best I can. Other times they'll give you an attorney that couldn't give two flying, So anyway, there is that. Okay. The rest of the Miranda rights is if you decide to answer questions now without an attorney present, you will still have the right to stop answering at any time until you talk to an attorney. So you could start answering questions. And then if it looks like the cop is doing the manipulative thing, you can be like, you know what? I'm done talking to you until my attorney is here. Thank you. Have a nice day. And by have a nice day, I mean, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, okay, so there is that. Knowing and understanding your rights is really, really important because people give too much of their power over to the police. The police do not have the right to interrogate you without an attorney. Now, a lot of people, like I said, as soon as they're confronted with an authoritarian figure, their inner child is roaring to the front and desperate to give their side of the story. And so we say way the hell too much. You don't want to do that. This is not a safe. These are not safe people. These are not safe. They are not safe people. Even if they come off as, oh, I'm the good cop. No, I don't think so. No, I'm in danger. I'm being abused. And that is all I am going to say. Period. Until an attorney is here. Do you see where I'm going with that? I had a case one time where the male spouse was the abuser. Okay. Manipulative, like nobody's business. Called the cops, gave this sob story. The cop totally fell for it and then started hounding the target of abuse. And the target of abuse was a sobbing mess, couldn't really put together sentences because they were so triggered at that point. She ended up getting arrested and going to jail. And it was only like a day or two later, after the family intervened, got the attorney involved and everything, that they got everything straightened out. And then he finally went to jail. But it's like, mother, where's my F bomb? Seriously, they're not cops are not trained in domestic violence. They're not. They're not trained in mental health issues. On those kind of calls, on domestic violence calls, there should be a social worker there. There really should. One that is trained in domestic violence, one that is trained in narcissistic abuse, and one that understands the freaking manipulation that's going on. So yes, they will do that. They will absolutely. The abuser will call the cops. It's a preemptive. How do I put this? It is a preemptive screw you. It is. I'm going to get a paper trail of how cuckoo you are so that I don't get sent to jail and I don't get in trouble and I can push the narrative of how crazy you are. That's basically what that is. So know your rights. You do not have to say a damn thing to any authoritarian. No, you don't. I want an attorney. Period. We're done. I want an attorney. Oh, also, big thing, no matter who shows up at your door, you demand to see a badge and a badge number and their full name. You know what I'm saying. So here's the other thing I have seen happen is that they'll get people to pretend to be cops to show up at your house to intimidate you and to get you to say or do things or sign things because narcissists are arrogant and they're stupid and they don't understand the law and they're counting that you don't understand the law either. You gotta educate yourself. What are your rights? So anytime anyone shows up at your house, you absolutely do not let them in. 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 If there's a search warrant, then you have to let them in, but it needs to be signed and dated and notarized and all that sort of good stuff. So they can't just come on in. And I've seen cases where the police will be like, oh, well, we just want to come in and talk. You hell no. Hell no. Where's your warrant? What are you looking for? Remember, this is the Fourth Amendment stuff. No search and seizure without a warrant and without probable cause. So you want to make sure you know your rights. And abusers, oh my freaking God. See, I'm on a roll here because this just gets me. Abusers will call DCS and CPS making false allegations all the time. They will claim abuse. They will claim neglect because they just want to make your life miserable. Miserable. They do. They want to make it as miserable as possible. And so they'll make false allegations. Here's the beautiful thing. You can sue the living crap out of them for harassment. If they do that and it's absolutely false and they've called an agency, you sue them for harassment. Not DCS, but your ex. So yeah, you have more rights than you think you do. You don't owe the police jack diddly squat. If they come to your door, they had better show you their badge. That's the first thing I would ask for. What is your badge number? And I would start filming. What is your badge number? What is your name? Okay, I am being abused. I am in danger. That is all I am going to say to you. I am not saying another word unless they hit you, in which, your ex hit you, in which case you can say, I was attacked. I'm in danger. I am being abused. That is all I'm going to say. You don't owe them anything. I mean, they'll try to make you think you owe them an explanation or that you have to talk to them. I've seen them do that too. I'm just like, you unethical piece of crap. No, you don't. So you invoke your Miranda rights. Know your rights. Know your rights. You have the right to remain silent. You can answer questions, and at any point in time, you can say, you know what? I'm done. I am not answering another word until I have my lawyer here. Thank you. Know your rights. So there is the Miranda thing. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to, shoot them over to me in IM or whatever. Okay, let's go over the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held answerable for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. So basically what that's saying is that if there's something criminal going on, you have to have a grand jury indict you. It cannot just be, oh, well, we said, it has to be a grand jury. So that's usually capital cases. That's usually murder, that kind of thing. You cannot be tried twice for the same crime. So something that King George used to love to do is that people would get off of something, and then they would immediately recharge them and try them again and trying to get a different outcome. So you got to know your rights. No, they cannot do that. Now, the second half of this is nor shall they be compelled in any criminal case to bear witness against themselves. You take the fifth. You take the fifth. That's what the fifth is. That's why when people say, I'm pleading the fifth, that means I am not testifying against myself. I am not going to say anything to you that is going to incriminate me in any way, shape, or form. Now, what the attorneys and judges and police will do is like, oh, well, sounds like you have something to hide. I don't give a damn. Biatch, I am not testifying against myself, and you legally cannot force me. Have a nice day. And by have a nice day, I mean go cluck yourself. So there's that. All right. Nor can nor can he or she be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. Meaning that you get to go before a judge and plead your case. You are assumed innocent until proven guilty. That's what due process means. That's why it's so terrifying that that's being deprived, because if they deprive it against one population, eventually they're going to deprive it against everybody. Due process means we are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Otherwise, we're just guilty and we get to be sent to jail or a gulag or El Salvador or God knows where else. So there is that. And you need to know that. That is why due process is so vital to this country. This is what separates us from North Korea. This is what separates us from Russia. This is what separates us from other dictatorships around the world. Presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now, abusers presume guilt and then demand that we prove we're innocent. It don't work that way, because it's always going to work in the favor of the abuser if you do that. Always. Keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So the last part of the Fifth Amendment is nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So they just can't come in and be like, like your house, think I'm going to take it. Nope, they can't do that unless they pay you for it. So that is what the Fifth Amendment is about. That is why it is so vital that those amendments be protected, because it affects every single one of us. If one of us gets into a case with an abuser and the abuser decides that they're going to try to pull something and prove that we're guilty and there's no due process, we're screwed. You know, this is why it affects survivors of abuse. This is what I keep trying to teach everybody. It's like, you can't just put your head in the sand and go, oh, this is only affecting these people. Well, for now, how long before it affects the rest of us? You got to be on constant vigilance against our rights being decimated. And especially think of it this way. How do abusers view their targets? With absolute and utter contempt. Absolute and utter contempt. And so do you really think they'd give any of us a fair shake? Not even a little. Protect your rights. Know your rights. Know what you need to do in case the police come to you. So basically, they show up. If your ex has called the police on you, and if DCS or CPS, you basically get your evidence together that this was a false allegation, and then you hit them with a harassment lawsuit. Abso-freaking-lutely. And same thing if they keep calling the police. They will use agencies and judiciaries as bullies by proxy. That's what this is. It's basically like, see, I've got this really powerful person and they're gonna make you. That's what they're doing. And that's why you got to give them the middle finger and be like, I'm not playing, mother clucker. Not happening. So yeah. Anyway, that basically when they call the cops, where we get into trouble is we go into our inner child. We get triggered, which is what we're going to talk about next. So we get triggered. We turn into 4-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and we want to explain. Absolutely not. It will do you no good. You do not explain to a cop. Never, ever. Not ever, not once. Now, are there good cops out there? Yes, there are. Are there a lot of bad cops out there? Yes, there are. And you cannot assume that the one who gets called is going to be a good cop. You absolutely invoke your own Miranda rights. You know what? I have the right to remain silent, and I am going to. no matter what the cop says, and they will pull every manipulation in the book. Fear, obligation, guilt. What does that sound like? Sound familiar? It should. So yeah, so there that is. So let's talk about triggers because this is huge. So the question was, do we ever get rid of the triggers? Do our triggers ever go away? Well, this is kind of a good news, bad news kind of thing. So first of all, let's talk about what triggers are. When we have been traumatized, our little amygdala is going to be damned and determined to try to keep us safe from here on out. So whenever the amygdala, now the amygdala is an organ, a little almond-shaped organ that sits about an inch inside of each ear. Whenever this little guy hears, sees, or feels something that feels like a threat, something that reminds us of our previous abuse, it lights up like a Christmas tree, tells the hippocampus, hypothalamus, we need cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. Stress hormone gets us tensed up because it's getting ready for us to fight, run away, fight, flight, freeze so that the predator just walks on by, or fawn, give into the predator, be overly, codependent in a way. It's like, let me please you, let me please you, let me just, please don't kill me. Let me just tell you everything you need. That's what happens when we get together with cops. Hello? Yeah, you don't want to do that. Dangerous. But this little guy doesn't know that. So the amygdala is 3 O's stupid. Like, God love it. 3 O's stupid. So when it feels a threat, we get sent into this fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which leads to a panic attack, usually. So brief reminder, since we're all tightened up with the cortisol, we have cut off the oxygen CO2 flow, which tells another part of our brain, holy crap, we're going to die. There's not enough oxygen CO2 flow. So then it tells the adrenal gland that sits on top of the kidneys to release everything at once. And now we're shaking like a leaf, racing thoughts, pounding heart, pounding heart. And we're having a cop in front of us trying, demanding answers. And we're going right into inner child and or dissociation. And that's what the cops are counting on. That's why I hate that they don't have social workers that come with them. Oh my God. So so now we're in a panic attack. We might be dissociating at that point. And if your inner child is running the show, you're just going to go, blah, 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 and that cop's going to go, let me just take all this down. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So triggered. Who in your life reminds you of a cop? I would imagine if you grew up with a narcissist, especially if they were a grandiose narcissist, that's going to be your trigger right there, is they're acting like your abuser. Absolutely. Demanding, intimidating, fearful, making you fearful, making you feel obligated, making you feel guilty even. They'll do that. So those are all triggers. Those are what happened to us when we were kids. So when we're traumatized by an abuser, anyone who reminds us of the abuser is going to be a trigger. It absolutely is. Triggers are very powerful, and they're not always bad. I mean, they're in a way, God love the amygdala. It's trying to keep you safe, but it just doesn't know how. Why? Because a lot of times, if we were raised by an abuser, the trauma happened at a much younger age. And so that inner child is the one that's trying to deal with this and that is getting triggered. Okay. So, all right. So triggers are things that remind us. So smells absolutely will trigger us. If you've got PTSD, a smell. Absolutely. I was working with a client years ago. She could not stand the smell of Irish Spring because her abuser used Irish Spring before he attacked her. And that would just send her into flamer. So smells can be a trigger. Absolutely. Tasting something can be a trigger. Seeing something can be a trigger. Hearing something can be a trigger. If I hear anybody that sounds like my dad, sweet baby Jesus, I am on full alert, shields up, fists going. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't think so. So yeah, those are all triggers. And do I still get triggered? You bet. Oh, you betcha. Oh, you betcha. So anyway, and we'll get to, do they get less? They do. A lot of them do, but you got to work on yourself. You got to work on yourself. So first of all, you got to identify what your triggers are. You got to know what your triggers are. And sometimes it helps to run through scenarios. Honest to God. Like if you think your cop, your is that interesting? A little Freudian slip there. If you think your abuser is going to call the cops, you may want to run through the scenario in your head so you prepare ahead of time and you identify, oh, I feel like I'm four. Oh, okay. I want to tell them everything. Do you see where I'm going with that? It's a really good idea to kind of, yes, the body does keep score. Abso-freaking-lutely. To kind of run through scenarios so that you can play them out and see where you might be in danger of your traumas. The traumas can be a bad thing. Traumas can also, I mean, the triggers, I'm sorry, triggers can also be a good thing because they warn you. They're like, danger, 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 Will Robinson, danger, danger. Just dated myself. That was Lost in Space from the 1960s. Anyway, the point being is they let us know when we're in danger or when we think we're in danger. Now, unfortunately, the amygdala has a tendency to be like very drama queen. It's it's kind of like everything's a danger. Oh my God. And you have to kind of sort through. It's like, wait a minute, is this really a danger or is this just you freaking out? You know, because not everything is a danger, but the amygdala thinks it is. So this is where knowing your triggers. What triggers you? What triggers you? You know, for a lot of us, it's authoritarian figures that are intimidating, fearful, obligating, guilt. That's a trigger. That absolutely is a trigger. That's why abusers call the cops on the person they're abusing because they are using it as abuse by proxy. So what else is a trigger? Being insulted, that can be a trigger. Being accused of something you didn't do, that can be a trigger. Being accused of being something you're not, that can be a trigger because that's what our abusers do. They make up stuff and they lie and they want other people to believe their lie about us. And we start going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What if people believe them? Well, the people who believe them, if they're willing to believe the worst of you, they do not deserve the best of you and they can go pound sand. So those are all triggers. So it can be mentally, it can be physically, it can be emotional. You betcha. It's the whole shebang. So know your triggers. Write them down. What are they? Now that we've identified the triggers, what can you do? Okay, guys, there is no shortcut. And I keep telling everybody this, and everybody's like, can't there be an easy button? I wish there was. Honest to God, I wish there was. I would love to retire. That would be awesome. But there's not. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. Get with a damn good trauma therapist, and not just one that's like, yes, I'm trauma informed. No. What do you know about trauma? Where have you learned? Who did you study with? You know, and if you ask questions, you don't just accept them at face value. There are so many therapists out there that claim to be trauma informed, and then the client gets in with them and they're just like, they don't know their a-hole from a hole in the ground. I'm like, yeah, I know. So make sure they know what they're doing and trust your gut. If you get into a session with a therapist and they start saying things that don't sound right to you, first of all, ask them. And if it still doesn't sound right to you, fire them. Absolutely. Have no problems firing them. You need somebody who is going to be advocating for you and your self-esteem and your inner children. So you need somebody who knows their a-hole from a hole in the ground, understands narcissistic abuse, and really truly does get trauma, either because they've been through it themselves or because they've done a ton of studying with, like, oh, I don't know, Bessel van de Kolk and Dr. Ramani. And, you know, I mean, it's just, come on. So anyway, get with a good trauma therapist, number one. Number two, do the work. When a therapist suggests reading or watching something or exercises, we're just not saying it just to hear our own voice. We're saying it to help you. It drives me absolutely insane when I give all of these tools to clients and then they are like, oh, well, I don't have the time. Oh, well, it's too hard. Yeah, it's hard. It is. This is not going to be fun. If it was fun, it wouldn't be abuse. So listen to your therapist. If they suggest reading books and doing the exercises, do it. It's going to help you. It is. It's just like when I suggest to people, it's like, wow, you have a lot of anger towards your abuser. Let's write a go screw you letter. Let's write it. Let's write it. Let's write it and burn it. Let's do it. And then they do it and they come back and they're like, wow, I feel so much better. And I'm like, yes, because that's the point. I want you to feel better. I want you to get better. I want you to heal. I want you to not pass this on down to the next generation. I want you to protect yourself. I want you to be okay. So when you resist doing the work, you got to ask yourself why. What is this self sabotage about? Why am I not giving myself the worth to take care of myself? So it is connected to self esteem. Read the Self Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Treat that book like a gourmet meal. I want you to go through it super slow. I want you to do every damn exercise. And I don't want you to start making excuses. Seriously. This is for you. This is your life. And if you've got kids, this is how you're going to help them because kids watch us and they watch how we treat ourselves and they watch how we let others treat us. Do you see where I'm going with that? Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Do it. Read it. Go slowly. Savor it. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Yeah, it's going to bring a lot of stuff up. A lot of clients read that and go, oh, I didn't really get a lot of self-esteem growing up. Yes, I know. That's why we're reparenting, doing mirror work daily. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. You know what? You are worth your own love, your own time, and your own attention. It's okay for you to work on yourself and then walk out. Okay? Mirror work daily. Self-esteem workbook. Half an hour a day. Half an hour a day. If you take smoke breaks or you go out and drink coffee, you got the time to work on the self-esteem workbook. So self-esteem workbook, half an hour a day. Inner child workbook, any of the inner children workbooks. So either the one by Catherine Taylor, which I like because it's experiential, you rock yourself as a baby and all of that good stuff. Or the Lucia Cappuccioni one, which is where you write your adult with your dominant hand and your child with your non-dominant hand. You have a conversation back and forth. That's great. Do that because you need to access those parts of you that were traumatized and they get triggered and that then do things that don't help. Now, understand the inner children are not being unhelpful on purpose. They're just doing what they think they need to do to keep you safe. But you got to teach them that it's not safe. They adult you run it. So, okay. CPTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Fabulous book. Highly recommend it. The Audible I'm not crazy about because the voice drives me nuts, but read it and maybe use the Audible as a way to double hammer it in kind of thing. So work on yourself. You got to work on your triggers. First of all, you got to know what they are. So you got to identify them. And then once you've identified them, then you start working, okay, where did I get this trigger from? Who does this remind me of? And you start taking your power back, okay? Do triggers go away? Yeah, they lessen a lot. They're still there, but they're not like, how do I explain this? When we come out of an abusive situation, whether it's a family of origin or whether it is a romantic relationship, our triggers are red and raw and inflamed and bleeding and pussy. They are. And as we work on them, we start cleaning them out. So, for example, when I am faced with an abuser who accuses me of something I didn't do or accuses me of whatever or sounds like my dad or whatever, yeah, there is that momentary moment of, okay, and then I have to go, whoosah. I don't need to respond to this. I'm safe. I'm okay. Okay, little 10-year-old, you're all right. Everything's fine. You don't need to freak out. But that takes practice. And practice takes working on the triggers, working on the trauma, and separating out the garbage that got shoved into your space that really belonged to them. Because that's what they do. They think that if they just shove you full of all of their hatred and their anger and their fears and their this and their that they'll somehow feel better. No, they never do. It doesn't work. And they never figure it out. And it's not your problem. Oh, that's the other thing. Codependency. Facing codependency by Pia Melody. I think that would be a really good idea because that is part of that inner child thing, wanting to please an authoritarian. You don't want to do that. So, okay. Do the triggers go away? They lessen. They lessen. They're still going to be there. I mean, I still, on occasion, have panic attacks. It happens, especially if something really reminds me of my dad or really reminds me of a dangerous situation. I absolutely will start to go into a panic attack. And then I have to remember my training. Okay, breathe. Okay, throw your chest open. Hold it. I'm safe. I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'm freaking out, but I'm all right. It's okay. Woosah. One more time. I'm safe. I'm okay. Everything's fine. Yes, I am still freaking out, but I'm okay. Everything's fine. You see where I'm going with that? You remember your training. You remember all the things that you've learned. You remember your tools. And you may or may not remember it in the moment, but as soon as you can catch it, catch it. You know, sometimes I don't catch panic attacks until I'm already at the stage, you know? And then as soon as I catch it, I start doing what I need to do. Sometimes I can catch it right in the beginning. Other times I don't catch it until I'm already hyperventilating. It just depends. It just depends. So gentle with yourself. Gentle with yourself. Understand what your triggers are. Write them down. And then start identifying what situations those have come up in. What situations remind you of your family of origin that was abusive or of your ex that was abusive? And then, give yourself the grace and the permission not to be around those people. You don't need it. You don't. You're not going to fix your family of origin or your ex by continuing to be around people that remind you of them. So yes, triggers do lessen. That's the good news. The bad news, and it's not really bad news, it's still good news, is that you got to work on yourself. It's not just going to happen by osmosis. It's not like, you're absolved and you don't ever have to think about it again. So the reason why triggers keep coming back over and over again is because oftentimes what we do is we resist them. So when we resist a thought, it's like seeing a pink elephant taking a crap in the corner of the living room. And we go, oh my God, pink elephant, corner of the living room. Don't want to think about it. I'm not thinking about the pink elephant. I'm not thinking about the pink elephant. I'm not thinking about the pink elephant. What am I thinking about the whole damn time? The pink elephant. So what you have to do is, damn, there's a pink elephant. I see that trigger. Where'd that trigger come from? Get curious. Get curious. This is where people really go south is they don't get curious, they get scared. Get curious. Where did that trigger come from? Who taught me that? Huh. That's interesting. Whoa, I should probably journal about that. Think I will. And the next thing you know, the pink elephant starts shrinking because you have acknowledged it and you're working on it. So don't be afraid. Now, something else I want to leave you with before I dive into the questions is, somebody asked me, how do you know when somebody has shown themselves to you? How do you know, thank you for showing me who you are? It's the level of cruelty. The level of cruelty is the level of crazy. Let me just say that again. The level of cruelty is the level of crazy. And so when someone is cruel, that tells me everything I need to know about them. There is a difference between accidentally hurting somebody's feelings and being absolutely intentional on hurting somebody's feelings. Healthy, normal people do not ever intentionally hurt someone's feelings. Now, it can happen on accident. And when it does, we go, oh, God, I did that. I am so sorry. I am mortified. I hurt you. I own it. This was me. I am sorry. It will never happen again. And then you make damn sure it never does. Never happen again. What do you need to heal this relationship? What can I do to heal this relationship? And if they tell you go screw yourself, it's like, okay, but if you ever want me to make amends, I'm down for it, And then you let them go. If they're like, well, I need X, Y, and Z, okay, then you do that. But if they keep coming back and going, well, you need to keep apologizing. No, you've apologized once sincerely. And a sincere apology means that the behavior never happens again. So healthy people never seek to harm. They never do. I mean, it happens on accident, or it happens occasionally, or it happens because we're not being present. But when it does, we call ourselves out, we take accountability, we make amends, and we ask for forgiveness, and then we move on, you know? So abusers don't do that. Abusers seek to harm. It makes them feel powerful. Oh my God, that is narcissistic supply like nobody's business. So the level of cruelty is the level of crazy. So don't make excuses for them. When they show you who they are through their cruelty and they're unrepentant and they've done it again and again and again, that's the level of crazy. So yeah, the crueler they are, the crazier they are. That's just the way it is. So, all right, let's dive into the questions, shall we? Okay. I hope that answered the questions about triggers. Triggers are going to be there your whole life, basically, but they're not going to be the red, raw, really easily activated. I mean, it usually takes a lot for me to go into a panic attack. So, yeah. So just write them down, challenge them, work on them, do all the books I talk about. Shahida Arabi, I keep forgetting. Shahida Arabi, Breaking Bonds. Oh, thank you. Breaking Bonds with Narcissists and Psychopaths. I love her. She's phenomenal. She's great. So read her books. She's another one I love. Okay, so let's dive into the questions. Okay, how do you get their voice out of your head? Okay, you work on self-esteem. I am not kidding you. Self-esteem is going to be more than anything else because you recognize that they don't belong there. They don't belong in your head. Don't let them take up space in your head. So you write them a goodbye letter. Goodbye, as in, we are done. You don't get to live up here rent free one more second. Have fun with that. And here's what you did to me. And here's why we're not going to do this anymore. Now, you never send those letters. Don't ever send them. I often have clients be like, oh, I want to send it. Nope, not going to do any good. And all it's going to do is give them ammunition and keep the BS running. You don't want that. You want to cut them off. The narcissists don't care whether the attention you give them is positive or negative. Seriously, listen to me now. Believe me now. They don't care whether it's positive or negative. They just want you thinking of them. They just want you to interact with them. They just want you to fill in the blank. So the kindest and also the cruelest thing you can do is cut them off. Don't give them narcissistic supply. For them, it's cruel. For us, it's kind. And that's not cruel like, oh my God, I'm being cruel to them. It's to their ego. Their ego is so overbloated and so inflated that they really, truly feel this sense of entitlement that they need to live in everybody's head rent free. And that's just not the way it is. So you write a goodbye letter. You break up with them. You do, essentially, no matter who it is, dear mom, dear dad, dear grandparents, dear first grade teacher, dear, ex, dear whatever. Here's the good, if there was any. There may not have been. Now, remember, narcissists are not always going to present as 100% evil, because if they did, nobody would have anything to do with them, and I wouldn't have this job. So they will be good with that intermittent positive rewards. I love you, I love you, I love you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, love, hate, love, hate, love, hate, love, hate, love, hate. And so we start living for the days when they're quote unquote normal. So the good. Okay, here's what was good about you. Here's what I miss. Here's why you're in my head. Here's what was bad. Here's what you used to tell me. Here are the lies you started filling my head with. Here's the ugly. Here's more of the lies you started doing. And here's some of the behavior that you started doing. And then the unforgivable. And this is what's making me say goodbye in no uncertain terms. I am raising the rent. I am worth more. I am worth more. I am not going to allow you or anybody else who's cruel, who's evil, who's mean, who's unrepentant to live rent-free in my head. I have got too much sunshine and daisies to do and not have you come and piss on my gate. No, thank you. You don't get to. I'm not allowing it. Have a nice day, go pound sand or whatever you need to. I mean, I had one client do 27 pages of F you, F you, F you, F you, F you. I was so angry. So you do that and then you burn it. You trot it out to the barbecue. You read it out loud once like a Declaration of Independence. You don't get to live in my head rent free anymore. You are banished. Goodbye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Go pound sand. And then you burn it and you let it go because keeping them in your head is not going to fix them. So when I was first doing my journey healing here, I found that I kept my anger at my dad as a way to try to fix him because I was trying desperately hard to try to figure out what I could have done differently to fix him. And when my therapist told me that, I was like, wow, you're right. I'm hanging on to the anger because it's a way to keep him alive. And I finally let it go. And the only time he ever pops into my head is when I do this show. So, or when I deal with somebody who is cruel like he was. So, yeah, absolutely. You let it go. I'm going to start singing Disney. Let it go. You let it go. But write it out. Get it out of your head. Get it onto paper. Say whatever you need to. You can be as angry as you need to because underneath that anger is generally hurt. So when people are, just, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. What's the hurt? And oh my goodness, they start crying and they're little kids. I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be, I just wanted to be seen. I just wanted to be heard. There you go. That's what the anger is about. So when you come up with the anger first, because remember, anger is the easiest emotion to access. It's part of our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It's what keeps us safe. If we're Incredible Hulk, nobody in their right mind is going to mess with us, right? So you got to get over, so the anger is the bodyguard of the softer emotions. So you got to get to what's driving the anger. And it's usually sad. It's usually hurt. It's disrespect. It's not being heard. It's not being seen. So that's why writing it out really helps, because it helps us, number one, allow us to be angry at our abuser. How many times did our abuser say, you can't be angry at me. I'll give you something to be angry about. Well, guess what? You have a right to be mad at your abuser. You do, but find what's driving that anger. What's underneath the anger? And that's why when you do the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrific, and at the very end, goodbye, you're probably going to start crying. And that's okay. That is, not all tears are evil, as Gandalf says in Lord of the Rings, which we just finished watching. So, not Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. So the point being is, it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It's cathartic. It helps us clean stuff out. It really does. But a lot of us survivors have a fear of crying because we were punished for crying. I got hit when I cried. I was told you can't cry. You're a Marine. It took me until I was 16 to figure out I hadn't enlisted. That kind of craziness. So allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to have emotions. Allow yourself to be. And remember, the level of cruelty is the level of crazy. So when you go through and you see how much cruelty there was, that's the level of crazy you had to deal with as a kid. Pat yourself on the back, give those inner children a hug, and tell them how amazing they are that they got you through. Seriously. A lot of people get mad at their inner children, but you got to understand, they kept us alive. They did. Maybe not working as an adult. You need to change some of that behavior. But dear Lord, the level of crazy they had to deal with, give them hugs. Love them. Give them this respect and the kindness that they deserve. Seriously. So, okay, there's that question. I hope I answered that question. I went off on a tangent. Dear Lord. Getting the voice out of your head. Yeah, write and burn. Write and burn. Thought stopping is the other thing. So when a thought comes up, you simply go, whoa, hello, thought. That was, wow. That's my abuser's voice. Fascinating, Captain. Thanks for playing. Go pound sand. I am not playing. I hear you knocking, Mother Clucker. You can't come in. And you send it on its way, which is different from resisting. So resisting is we don't even acknowledge it. You acknowledge it. Wow. That sounded just like my dad. Damn. Okay. Well, hello, you cannot come in. I'm not inviting you in for coffee because I know you're going to stay for lunch. No, not doing it. Bye-bye. And then you replace it with the polar opposite of whatever that voice said. So oftentimes for us, it's not good enough, or you're stupid, or, whatever. I mean, they do all sorts of horrible, nasty things, and just none of them should have been parents. Okay, let's see. Next question. When narcissists learn what our triggers are, do they use those triggers to intentionally hurt us? Abso-freaking-lutely. You betcha. Oh, absolutely. My dad was such an a-hole. Oh my God. I was terrified of haunted places, which is funny that I do paranormal investigations, or I did in the past, paranormal investigations. But when I was a kid, I was terrified of haunted places, ghosts, etc. And one time we were traveling in California, because that's we lived in Northern California, and dad stopped at this place, and I did not want to stay there because I had seen I can't In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and it was Coloma, and it was the Coloma Inn, and it was reportedly haunted. And I was like, we're not staying there. That place is haunted. And my dad got this look on his face like, "Oh, really? Don't wanna stay there?" He freaking went in and he booked a room, and he booked the most haunted room, and then he just enjoyed my terror the entire time. Now, nothing happened. It may or may not have been haunted, I don't know, but a good parent wouldn't do that. A good parent would not do that. So, yeah, they absolutely will pick up on anything you're afraid of, not just a trauma trigger. They'll do anything you're afraid of or anything that you don't want to do, they'll make you do. Yeah, absolutely. If they have that kind of power, if they're a parent and you're a kid, yeah, they'll do that 100%. Okay. How do narcissists feel after they've hurt us? Is there any remorse at all? Nope. Zero zilch, not a zip. So we attribute to narcissists the normality of a regular person, of a person without a personality disorder. People with narcissism do not have empathy. They do not. That is one of the hallmarks of a narcissist. They have no remorse, no empathy. In fact, most of the cluster Bs, that's the hallmark, is that there's no remorse, there's no empathy. They cannot and they will not put themselves in somebody else's shoes. So no, they don't feel sorry. They may tell you they feel sorry, but do they do the behavior again? Well, guess what? Then they weren't sorry. If a behavior is repeated, they're not sorry. They're not remorseful. They don't. What they may be remorseful of is getting caught, or they may be remorseful of having to do the love bombing to get you back. But do they care about what you're feeling? Not even a little. Listen to me now, believe me now. All narcissists that I have had to deal with, these 19 years, is that how long I've been doing this? Dear God. They want us dead. They actually want us dead, and they will do things to place us in danger. Absolutely. They have no remorse. They have no compunction. My dad used to play chicken in the car with my sister and I. He didn't care if we got into a car accident. He enjoyed hearing and seeing us being terrified. That's all he cared about. Ego. It feeds the ego. How they feel after they've hurt one of us or scared one of us or intimidated one of us, oh, they feel so powerful. That ego, man, it's dangerous. They're just like, oh yeah. That's their kokanya. It makes them feel powerful, and it makes them feel godlike. They literally think they're God. They literally do. And they literally think they have the right of life or death over us. And it makes them feel powerful to kill us. That's why they're dangerous, especially if they're a dark triad. If they're a psychopath, narcissist, control freak, they want you dead. And just sometimes garden variety narcissists want you dead because it makes them feel powerful. Absolutely. So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Another question. How do I lead under pressure without being called emotional or having anger issues? I give clear direction, but as a woman, I often have to ask more than once to be heard or respected. I do get a tad angry and want to cry. So that is a tough one. How do you lead without being... So I have found, honestly, that when I get quiet and not angry and not crying, and my voice is very low and people have to lean in to listen to me, they do. It takes practice. I would get with a coach. I really would. Get with a business coach to help you with that. And you want to work on your inner children. So how old were you when you were being disrespected, not heard, not believed, not respected, not listened to? How old were you? Work on that. Inner Child Workbook, Catherine Taylor, or Regaining the Inner Child, Lucia Cappuccioni. Curbing the needing to cry. So we do that. Here's the thing. In a healthy, normal world, which this clearly is not, emotions would be allowed and people would respect it. But narcissists don't. They emotion other than whatever emotion they want as a weakness. So unfortunately, we have to kind of present as emotionless when we are dealing with having to lead or having to, give talks or whatever. Um, so I would say, it's okay to have emotions. You got to be really careful about doing it in a work environment, especially if there's a narcissist for a boss. I would also wonder if that work environment is really what you want, because if they're forcing you to not be you, maybe that's not the right place for you. Because if you're being disrespected and you're having to work 6 times as hard as everybody else, that may not be the right place for you. But the other suggestion I would be is work on the inner child, work on practicing. So when you are feeling disrespected, run through it in your head in the shower. See if you can get a handle on not going to the tears. So if you can remember that this is more about them than about you. That's the tough one. Is that we internalize. We're like, oh, they're disrespecting me. They're not hearing me. They're not, and then we start crying because we feel disrespected and we're, back in our feelings as a little kid, which is totally normal in a normal world, but this is not a normal world. So you got to separate it. It's like, wow, what kind of dysfunction do they have to be so misogynistic as to not listen to me because I'm a woman? Whew, that's their problem. That's a them problem, not a me problem. So you got to keep separating it out. Is it fair? No. Is it stupid? Yes. Does it happen all the time? Oh yeah. So take a look at the corporation, take a look at the corporate environment. If it's toxic, maybe that's not the right one for you, but you can work with a business coach to kind of help you with that. And I would strongly suggest that. Absolutely. So, yeah, and really don't beat yourself up. You're human. And emotions are not bad, but narcissists make us feel like they are and they're not. Okay, let's see. That's it. All right. Now, since we are on that topic, I want to talk about it's okay to have emotions. So we're going to talk about that next week. We're going to talk about all the emotions and we're going to talk about identifying your emotions and we're going to talk about having your emotions and standing in power in having your emotions. So that was a great question. Thank you. So there that is. All right, you guys, drink lots of water, take very good care of yourselves, be gentle with you, get some exercise, get some sun. Remember, the level of cruelty is the level of crazy. And understand, you guys survived. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Give your inner children the kudos that they need. They need respect. They need to be heard. They need to be loved. They need to be played with. Go play. Go have fun. And really thank them for getting you to adulthood because they did their job. They did, but now they can retire. They can. They can go play. It's okay. So the level of cruelty is the level of crazy. Next week we'll talk about emotions, all of them, and all that sort of good stuff. And you guys take good care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later. Bye.